Let's move over to the running back position where you like one of our Dallas Cowboys, Tony Pollard, versus, of course, the Houston run defense in a battle of the Lone Star State on Sunday.
He was my start of the week last week, and I said, you know what, it worked out, Jen. Let's do it again, right? I mean, let's double it up. Houston's defense is terrible against the run, although Nick Chubb, I mean, what happened last week? That was just unbelievably bad. But I'm going to stick with the Cowboys, and you can start Zeke Elliott this week too with 6 teams on a bye. Remember, worst defense in the league in terms of stopping running backs. Pollard had a near 26% touch share last week. You could start him and again, Zeke. And then let's talk about DeAndre Swift. It looks like there's been a changing of the guard there last week. He led the backfield in snaps, in touches, in red zone looks, and in fantasy points ahead of Jamal Williams. This week, he's got the Vikings. This should be a high-scoring game, and they've been bad against running backs. In fact, they've surrendered 6 touchdowns and the second most fantasy points to the position since week 10.
And of course, DeAndre Swift, especially valuable in those PPR leagues, so fire him up. All right, moving over to who we're going to sit at the running back position. You do not like the running back on Houston's side of the Dallas game for this weekend. And Najee Harris, you're also saying, not this week.
Yeah, let's start off with Dameon Pierce, who had a decent game last week, 12.5 points, but that was against a bad Browns run defense. In his previous 2 games, he was terrible because, well, game script. And guess what's going to happen this week? Game script. That's right. The Cowboys are going to boat race the Texans. They're not going to be able to run the football for 4 quarters. This is a game where I would avoid Pierce at all costs. But here's the problem. We've got 6 teams on a bye, Jen. So when you look at my sit-em running backs this week, take it with a grain of salt because I know a lot of these players are going to have to be started out of necessity. You mentioned Najee Harris. He fits into that category as well. He's looked better lately, but outside of that one big game against Cincinnati, he still hasn't put up massive fantasy points. And the Ravens have allowed 1 touchdown and the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs in the last 4 weeks. So the matchup's not great either. Again, Harris is probably going to be an RB2 flex this week, but temper expectations.